Alright guys, welcome back to Formula 1 news. Mercedes have revealed their main intention from their big upgrade in Imola, and it's not necessarily adding too much downforce and lap time in the short term. There's other advantages they want to yield from this big upgrade, and also Mercedes reserve Mick Schumacher. Rumours emerging he might be back on the starting grid sooner than expected. Very much intrigued to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always. First of all then from Helmut Marko, confirmation that Nyck de Vries is in the hot seat right now. This is quite rare, I think, that you see these type of public declarations that Nyck de Vries is under the spotlight. He says, "We have given Nyck the yellow card, but not yet the red," which is, you know, quite something to say, to be honest. And, well, as he goes on to say, we'll discuss the drivers in question here in a second, but he also made the point that we've spoken to de Vries, nothing will happen in the next 3 races. So, after the next 3 races, we know that for Imola, for Monaco, and for Spain, that European, I think, triple header, actually, will, you know, he'll get those 3 races to see what happens. And after that, as he says, we spoke with de Vries, he agrees with our assessment that he needs to improve. The gap between him and his teammate Yuki Tsunoda, who has done a fantastic job, is huge. In football terms, he has already received the yellow card, but not yet the red. If it can improve, then the need for substitutions will go away on its own, and also shutting down the Mick Schumacher discussion, we'll get to that in a second, but confirming that Riccardo is not the man at the top of the list. This makes sense, right? Let's be honest, I talked about it yesterday. The intention for Red Bull and AlphaTauri right now is to prepare the next second driver for Max Verstappen effectively. And who's the best target for that? Maybe Yuki Tsunoda. At the end of the day, people might feel it's unfair to drop de Vries this early, and it might well be. But fundamentally, if they feel like he's not the guy that's going to be partnering Verstappen, and you know he's already 28, I just don't think he will be. They're going to put someone else in the car, and it might be Liam Lawson, it might be a Imola from Formula 2 doing a great job. Liam Lawson currently in Super Formula. Those are the key candidates, and Riccardo is not in discussion at the moment. That could change, but that is what we currently know. Speaking of Mick Schumacher though, this is another report going around today from the German media that he might be in conversations with Williams. We know that Williams and Mercedes have quite the relationship. James Vowles, of course, former top strategy guy at Mercedes, moved to Williams very recently to become their new team principal, and I believe he even said in interviews that he wasn't really a massive fan of Logan Sargeant, but Sargeant has proved him wrong in the first couple of races. Of course, he would say that as a team principal, but there's been some conversations about Logan Sargeant. I don't think he's in the same category as de Vries is, just because Sargeant is as rookie as they come, really. You know, just come from Formula 2, graduated into the sport. Yes, he's made some mistakes. Yes, he hasn't done anything spectacular so far, had a pretty underwhelming start to the season, but, you know, everyone expected Albon to outperform him, and I think they will give Sargeant the season. I'd be surprised if they didn't, but apparently the team from Grove, or Williams, is not completely satisfied with Logan Sargeant, and Toto Wolff wants to take advantage of this situation and potentially his relationship with James Vowles to bring Mick Schumacher into the team to replace Logan Sargeant. I'm not sure that's going to happen in the middle of the season, but the boss of Mercedes is to pressure James Vowles to replace Logan with Mick. So just want to keep your eyes on, right, because even if it doesn't happen this year, it wouldn't be massively surprising if Sargeant doesn't really set the world on fire. He had a good time in Bahrain, but often rookies do okay in Bahrain because they've had all the testing time there. As the season's progressed, he's not been great, and this might be Mick Schumacher's way back onto the grid. We know that de Vries was in the Mercedes Academy there reserve last year. He got onto the grid, and maybe Toto Wolff can pull similar strings here with Mick Schumacher, especially because that relationship just makes too much sense, right? The whole Mercedes-Williams thing, the Wolff-Vowles thing. I would also expect Mick Schumacher to be in the conversation in a couple of years' time when Audi becomes a thing and they fully take over the Sauber team that they're currently partnering with instead of Alfa Romeo going forwards. Mick Schumacher, German driver, that makes sense as well. So I think he will get back on the grid. Whether it's with Williams, though, that's a debate. There's also been questions about the calendar as well. Rumours around the German Grand Prix. Audi are trying to make this return in the coming years as well. And also some talk about a new South Korean Grand Prix. And F1 apparently wanted to hold a race in Seoul in, of course, another stream street race in the city centre. The authorities weren't convinced that was a good idea, so they're trying alternatives. But man, every day there's a new rumour about a new street race we're going to have in Formula 1. I am absolutely fed up of it at this point, and Hamilton says that Domenicali won't cut out the classic tracks, but I'll believe it when I see it, to be perfectly honest. Speaking of Hamilton's car, here we go then with the W14. This has been the long-awaited Imola upgrade package. We're going to see it in the flesh in a few days' time when they arrive to Imola with whatever kind of changes they're going to bring to the bodywork. Hamilton has made his point that, he's been counting the days down until he actually gets to drive this upgraded version, and Mercedes give their perspective on this in their latest debrief video on what they're expected to do. We saw Toto Wolff gave some indication yesterday as to the numbers involved, how much they're expecting to see benefit in terms of lap time from the simulator, but that's not really what they're going for here. Andrew Shovlin says this is a reset. They would have liked to have this reset probably 12, 18 months ago, but they're starting from a new baseline now that they hope can take them from this level up to where the Red Bull are. They know that with their current car design and concept, they can't get up that far, but it's not necessarily about lap time for the short term. It's about creating a car that's more drivable, the drivers have more trust in, and they can actually get the best out of.
Realistically, what should we expect from Imola updates? Well, if we go all the way back to Bahrain test, Bahrain race, that was where we realised that we didn't have a package that was going to allow us to fight for a world championship. And if we continued on that same development direction, we wouldn't end up in a position where we felt we could challenge Red Bull. So it was around that time that we took some decisions on how we develop the car, how the car works aerodynamically, how we shape the characteristics of the car. So how it is in terms of handling. What we are going to be bringing to the track in Imola is the first step really of that work. So this takes quite a long time to develop in the wind tunnel. You can't just do these things overnight, but the Imola package are the first steps in that direction. Now we're hoping to bring other updates later in the year. We do hope that it's quicker. We hope it's better in terms of qualifying and race pace. But as I said, the key thing is we're not just looking to bring a lap time update. We're looking to head off in a different development direction, one that we think gives us a better chance in the long term of being able to challenge for race wins and world championships.
So an interesting confirmation there that it was in Bahrain. The test and then the race itself, they knew straight away this car wasn't going to cut it, and Toto Wolff was immediately on the phone to James Allison getting him back in business is what we understand. But that's the point about drivability, right? And this is one of Hamilton's key complaints so far this year, that especially in qualifying situations where he's definitely lost out to Russell on average so far this season, seems to struggle more with feeling the car, feeling confident in the car underneath him. Last year that was the case in part due to the porpoising, especially through corners. This year the car seems to have, you could argue it's because the seating position is so far forward, or for various reasons, the rear end seems quite loose. It's not a particularly good car around rear limited circuits. It tends to be marginally better around the front limited circuits we saw around Australia, for example, and that means the drivers don't have the confidence they would like to have. Toto Wolff made the point a while ago as well that it's not necessarily about adding sheer amounts of downforce, it's more about making the car more drivable. He gave some thoughts, so kind of interesting thoughts as well on the ground effect cars and the fact that he doesn't like them in general, maybe because his team hasn't really nailed them. But as he says, it's less about adding 10 points of downforce, it's more about giving the drivers a car where if they turn the wheel into a corner, they'll actually know the rear won't overtake them. That is the problem. So I think really there's might be more performance in that car than they're currently seeing, but they can't unlock it because the drivers don't have the confidence that the rear isn't going to leave them behind when they go into a corner where that is volatile. So whether they're expecting 2-3 tenths of a second improvement in lap time, but then in addition you could unlock a couple of additional tenths from the drivers actually having more confidence to push the car to the limit. We've seen that, certainly I think it was Sector 1 Jeddah where Hamilton was struggling there, lost about 3 or so tenths just to Russell in that sector, and seems to struggle more when the car is not so suited to his style, and he's complained a fair bit to Mercedes of what they should do to change it. Seems to have got a bit better over the last couple of races, but now is the key test really. And if Hamilton is confident in pushing this to the limit, then we might see some significant performance upgrades from that part, especially in the qualifying side of things. In the race, because you're not pushing the car 100%, you generally see a better side of Hamilton, I think, anyway, but that's what they're trying to achieve here with this upgrade. As I said though, they would have wanted to have had this 12 months months ago, right? They went down 12 months, if not 18 months of flawed direction development. And James Allison says, look, there are some valuable things in what they've learned and what they still have from their car, but fundamentally, with the cost cap as it is in place, is it going to be enough? Like, this really is the moment of truth, right? A few days' time, when we see this on track in Imola, this is where we get to see if Mercedes actually have a chance to compete for the championship next year and possibly into 2025 as well. If this doesn't work, and if they still don't understand what they're doing here, Red Bull will probably win all the championships and now until the 2026 regulations come in. So it's a very important time for Mercedes and for Formula One as a whole in terms of what the competition is going to look like for the next few years and whether Mercedes can actually be a challenger or it's going to be on potentially even Aston Martin or Ferrari to somehow come up with something that's going to work in their favour. So that's the plan for this weekend. It's a big operation, obviously, and I'm looking forward to seeing what it looks like. There's been many images and speculation as to what the side pods are going to be, and, well, we'll find out in the coming days. I'll definitely get a video done on the first look of all these things when we see them on track. Probably it'll be Wednesday in just a few days' time. And just one final thing to mention here, because they are doing the new tyre testing at the end of the Spanish Grand Prix to be introduced in Silverstone, and it has been, you know, a thing before when new tyre compounds and new tyre constructions are introduced mid-season. It can actually affect teams. Whether it will affect Ferrari badly, as such things have done in the past, I don't know, but it definitely is a key point of contention that teams, I think the teams agree that things need to change, but whether it's good or bad remains to be seen. Very much enjoyed your thoughts in the comments below. Hit the like button if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new, take care, and I'll see you next time.